everybody. Welcome to this month's edition of the Female Film Critics Panel. And it's so much fun. I love doing this every month where we bring female content creators together and we share our experiences. And I'm very excited about the panel that I have with us today. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and today I have Yong Chavez is here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. And Mikayla at Movies with Mikayla is here.
Hi, guys.
Yes. Thank you both so much for joining us and sharing your experiences. I just love doing this so much. And what I'd like you to each do is just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got started creating your content that you do. So why don't you go, Yong, first?
I'm Yong Chavez. I'm from ABS-CBN News. ABS-CBN News is it started in the Philippines, and it's still primarily a Philippine-based news outlet, but it's gone global for about more than 20 years ago now, and I am the Hollywood correspondent. It's a niche that I created for myself just because I love movies, and I'm more into doing features than I am of covering murders, which I did, and all the other things. That's how I started in this. It's the beat was primarily Southern California, so anything that's Filipino related, because I'm from the Filipino channel, I covered. And so there are a lot of things that my heart couldn't take anymore. So I'm like, I'm gonna go where it's better for myself, and also I feel like I could contribute more and just kind of support our talents that are there, since their stories are underrepresented and not told a lot.
So did you grow up in Southern California?
Oh, I grew up in the Philippines, but I moved here in 2000. We moved, my family moved to Guam, which is U.S. territory, in 96, and then moved here in 2000. And I worked so many, like a new immigrant, I worked so many different jobs before I got to do what I needed to do. One of my funniest anecdotes was that I used to work at a bake shop in Hollywood, and one of my regular customers is Patricia Arquette, because she loved the purple yam cake that we specialize in our bake shop. And so I used to sell her, and then when I covered the SAG Awards, she was a nominee, and so she came up on the red carpet. I'm like, Patricia, you won't remember me, but I used to sell you purple yam cake at red. It's like, red ribbon, yes.
That's awesome.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's funny.
That's great. Well, what about you, Mikayla? How did you get started on YouTube with your channel?
Yeah, so about now a year and a half ago, I got really into watching reviews and watching movie reactions, trailer reactions, all that kind of stuff. And I've always been into movies. Like, it's such a big part of my family since I was a child. Like, I would always be able to sit through a movie, even like at 2 years old. Like, I was always into it, and my family would always like debate about them. We would review them ourselves, like to each other. And then during quarantine, I was just sitting there. I'm like, I feel like I can do this. And, had lots of time on my hands, and I'm like, I want to do this. So I just took that leap, and I've been loving it ever since. I mean, there's opportunities. I mean, look at me right now. Like, I never thought I'd be talking to like professionals like yourself. So this is awesome. And yeah, it's going great.
And you started your channel kind of right in sort of the thick of quarantine. Was that kind of part of what inspired you?
Yeah. Like I said, it was just a lot of time on my hands watching a lot of things, brushing up on shows that I like haven't watched. And and I really got into the trailer reactions too. That's what kind of made my like channel grow like it did. But yeah, the quarantine really helped with that.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm curious for Yong, when you cover the Filipino content, do you feel like you are correcting a lot of stereotypes? Is that something that's frustrating for you, or something that you kind of like being the person that can help do that?
the thing about that is that it's 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 only recently that there are more opportunities for Filipino American, Filipino Canadian talents in Hollywood. That was something that was so frustrating. And then the rare ones that they get cast or they get hired, it's once they go to a certain level, it's so difficult to get to them because of the gatekeepers, the publicists who want to offer them not to minority media or minority outlets, or it's I've had a lot of experiences like that. It's only now really that I guess a lot of them, because of, and I have to give a lot of credit to the Black Lives Matter movement, because it has really put a spotlight on underrepresented groups. And like the saying, all votes rise. So when some things that are unfair in Hollywood are brought to light, then the casting was also tackled. The lack of people of color, Asians, in projects. And then for me, being able to tell the stories of the talents that get cast or get hired, that has been my mission. But it's been very difficult. I've told this story a lot of times. One of the most painful thing for me was the assassination of Gianni Versace. That's the series, right? With Darren Criss. And Darren Criss is Filipino American. His mom is Filipino born and raised. And so when he and I knew him from interviewing him from several things. And he's very attached to his Filipino identity as well. And he always says that I may look white, but I know that I know who I am, and that I am Filipino American. And so for that, I tried to get into their premiere, because it's a Filipino American story, that he is the star. And they have several stars in that show. John Briones plays Darren's father. There are several supporting characters that are there. And I asked and asked and asked, and they wouldn't let me. It's one of those things. And what was so even egregious about that was that I ran into Darren at an award show, and I said I couldn't cover your show because they wouldn't let me. And he said, "What?" And so he said, "Can you show me the?" And then I showed him the email, and then he responded right there and then to the email, said, "Hi, this is Darren." He basically just said, I think that Yong needs to be there because it's a Filipino story and we need to be represented. And
so surprising to me when you're a member of the Hollywood Foreign Press and the Hollywood Critics Association. You think that
because I only, and that's the reason why I applied for membership last year, because I'm only a member last year. And it was, but prior to that, it was so difficult to get these things over. It took a lot of years before I was able to even get an email, be responded to. It's very difficult, but it's but looking back at it now, I'm realizing that these are things that I needed to get through, and now I appreciate anything that comes my way, and I don't take it lightly, anything that comes our way. But it's sad too, and we talk about that on Twitter a lot with the other with the other journalists who are not given the access that they need for the talents in their community. And it's an ongoing issue, and I hope that it'll be addressed soon, because it's just frustrating, because you just want to help also to promote, right?
Well, and especially as things have become more open because of the pandemic, that with virtual junkets and things like that there really is no excuse to not including
Yeah.
people of color anymore, especially when it's a film involving their ethnicity. It's just there's no reason at this point.
And the you know, what you would call it, the thing that really put a ribbon to that whole story, a bow to that story, is that at the SAG Awards, where Darren became the first Filipino American to win Best Actor, I was the one. I was in the backstage, and I asked him, what it meant for him to be the first. And
Yeah.
my question was the one that was used by every wire network, even though they're not showing the image of the journalist. It was my voice. It was on Hollywood Reporter. It was in every video that they showed.
Right.
And
Yeah.
but those are the things. Those are
Mhm.
the things that we go through. But people don't know that what we have to go through in order to get access. It's difficult.
It's very difficult. So Mikayla, I noticed that you cover a lot of superhero content, and that can be
Yeah.
pretty dicey. We'll talk about unpopular opinions coming up, but yeah, how has
Oh,
that
no.
been for you? How do you feel about covering all these superhero properties?
You know what, for me, I think that's where I feel the most comfortable, because that's like, I grew up with the comics and the cartoon shows, so seeing all of these characters like get live action movies, like I'm really into that. But like you said, you throw one opinion out there and like people just attack it.
Yeah.
So even, for example, like being a woman, I really like seeing the female superheroes getting their time to shine and getting their own solo movies. And there's some people out there that don't see the good in them. And I always try to be optimistic with them. Like, I love Wonder Woman. I liked Captain Marvel. But like you said, it might be seen as an unpopular opinion, but I think the representation is like, it's needed, and I like it. I think little girls, little boys, I think it's important that they see that. I would have liked that when I was a kid. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. I mean, I love Wonder Woman so much, and I enjoyed Captain Marvel. Obviously, it has flaws, most movies
Yes.
do, but I feel like these female superhero movies have to be like perfect in order for
Right.
them to
Yeah.
like they're held to such like a high standard that like even the female Avengers scene in Avengers Endgame. I feel like
Yeah.
we've seen a million scenes like that in uh with sort of male superheroes
Of
that
course,
are
yeah.
just kind of fun, and but it has to be this like perfectly executed scene in
Mhm.
order for it to not be criticized and I mean, and heaven forbid you actually don't like a popular superhero movie, then you
Yeah. Oh
it's
yeah.
brutal.
God, yeah, it's savage.
Yeah, it's savage.
For real.
The comments are just it gives me nightmares. Sometimes it gives me like secondhand pain when I'm like, oh my God, this poor person.
Yeah. The whole reason I started this series was because I had an unpopular opinion about Shazam, and I was the first female critic on Rotten Tomatoes to give a negative review for it, and it was that pretty. It was rough.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Oh no.
Yeah, death threats, the whole ridiculous. It was crazy, and you try to have it not rattle you, but it's hard.
Oh, it is. Yep.
It's when it actually happens to you, at least for me, it was tough. And so that's why I started this, because I just needed that, like I needed that camaraderie and to know that I wasn't alone. And it's been a great experience. But it's challenging. And I was curious, Yong, what would you say is one of the best films for Filipino representation that you think is just a really great movie?
For now, you know what? Right now we haven't. I don't think we have the one that I really. Here's the thing, Rachel. I love rom-coms.
Me too.
Those are the things that are, if you ask me, I'm like Rachel in Friends, where I'd say this highfalutin movie, just to say, because I'm a member of all this critics organization, and but then deep inside, my favorite movie is Mr. Wonderful and While You Were Sleeping. So those are my comfort movies. But in terms of recently, at Sundance, there is a movie called Lenore Will Never Die, and it won an award. It won a special jury prize for its innovative spirit. And I was very proud of that, watching it. I know that it's not gonna land with the general public. I mean, to be honest, I know that it's too out there. It's genre bending. So and it's something that you would, because audiences have a particular expectation about what Asian cinema is, because of the popularity of let's say the Korean cinema, and this one was really different, and so I'm really proud of that. Right now, it's one of my things that I would recommend. I also would like to recommend several documentaries about what's happening in the Philippines. The political things there are really messy, and so the documentaries are some of the great ones that I hope will get more shine, because it's important for the world to find out what's happening in other places in the world. Sorry,
Yeah,
May.
definitely. What was the name of that one? The Sundance one?
Lenore Will Never Die.
Okay, yeah. That's the one where she's writing the comic book. She's a superhero.
Yeah, what happens? Well, she was a screenwriter, and she had this unfinished screenplay. This older woman and grandma, and she has dementia, and so like going in and out, and what happened is she got into the what she was writing. Essentially, she became a character in so it's a film within a film.
Yeah.
But there are just so many things that I never expected would happen, and then the actual director and like staff of crew of the film became a part of this film. So
Wow.
so yeah, it's really it's something that I would recommend that you guys see with an open mind.
Yeah, it's the kind of Sundance film that
Yes.
probably won't get much of a premiere. You may never ever get to see again. Those are the sort of the joys of Sundance, when you find, because the premieres you're gonna get to see, it's sometimes even the same like month of Sundance. But then you find these quirky, usually international films that you may never see again, and so you take the advantage of Sundance to see it. But yeah, that was definitely very quirky for sure. One thing I wanted to tell you about, especially if you love rom-coms, is last year on Hallmark Channel they had a film called Right in Front of Me. I don't know if you heard about it. Did you hear about it?
Yeah, I interviewed Marco Grazzini. I'm telling you, there's a Filipino in a movie, or I'm sure I will hunt them down.
Because I think both leads in that, Janelle Parrish and Marco Grazzini, are both part Filipino.
No, Janelle is actually she's Asian, but she's not Filipino.
Okay.
But Marco is he's become a friend of mine. He's also in another rom-com.
In the movie, he's a chef and he cooks all this Filipino food. Yeah.
He actually cooks in real life, so it's great. That is a great representation in a rom-com. So I'm very happy about that.
That was a fun one. So Mikayla, what did you think of like 2021? You were covering it, you're covering the movies. What were some of your highs and lows that you had?
Oh, okay.
I know, tough question.
I know there was so many. For sure, highs. I mean, I love musicals too. I love the superheroes, but musicals are also my go-to. So Tick Tick Boom, definitely.
Woo!
Yes.
I love Tick Tick Boom so much.
Loved it. And I watched it kind of late. I think I watched it a couple weeks ago actually. And I was like, wow, I didn't think I could love Andrew Garfield more, but But yeah, so Tick Tick Boom, West Side Story, I also loved. I don't know, what did you think of West Side Story?
Yeah, both of those. I mean,
Yeah.
Tick Tick Boom was my favorite movie of the year.
Oh, wow.
I liked it so much. The last month's female film critic panel was just about Tick Tick Boom. It was just me and my friends.
Yes, I saw that.
You know what happens in the house is that as soon as I start cooking, my husband's like, okay, should I play Tick Tick Boom in the background? Because he knows that that is my automatic thing. I would just play it. And I've had a chance to speak with Andrew.
Oh, wow.
And I told him, I've watched it an embarrassing amount of time already.
Yeah. I can't wait to watch it again.
I know. It's just so good, and that's why I'm so mad at BAFTA did not nominate it.
I
That's
know.
so bad.
I noticed.
I felt the same. I mean, I just loved
What happened
it.
there? So what do you think happened there? I mean, him being British, did that were they being very British and like, okay, we're not gonna nominate our own?
I think it's awards. It's just when by the time this airs, we will have already gotten the Oscar nominations out, and I'm sure there will be a million face palms.
Oh yeah. I'm like nervous.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this year especially, there's really only there's three that are in my top 20 that are in the like contenders. Most of the other ones I gave like positive reviews, but I just don't really care that much about. But I love Tick Tick Boom. I mean, when you're not, as far as best picture, I mean, I would love for something like Encanto or Mitchell vs. Machines to be in the best picture discussion, but it's almost impossible unless it's a Pixar movie. Then maybe it might get considered. But yeah, the animation for some reason very rarely makes that best picture top 10. But I loved Come On, Come On. That's probably more of a long shot, but I thought that was great. I loved West Side Story. I think in some ways, I think it's actually an improvement upon the original film.
I agree.
I think they have better chemistry. I think the singing is pretty much across the board better than this, because the singing was all dubbed in the original and dubbed well, but it doesn't sound like them singing. And so I think that there's actually some things that I prefer about it than the original.
Me too.
And so it was really great. But yeah, there's just so many movies that I loved that I'm sure will get ignored.
Yeah, I'm so sad that In the Heights is not in the conversation.
I know.
I love that.
I know. Me too.
I felt people were extremely tough on that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's
I
things
guess it's a valid it's a valid criticism of a valid issue, but it just killed it in so many ways, and it's heartbreaking because so many underrepresented people in that movie that are involved in that movie also suffered. So
yeah, and Coda is another that I love that is in the contention, kind of in the space. But I loved Flea. I would be very happy if Flea was included in as many categories as it could be. I'm afraid that people won't vote for it for animated film because they think that international or documentary will cover it, but the documentary branch is super lame, and they seem to always get it wrong, in my opinion. So I wouldn't put any stock in that. But one other movie I absolutely loved that a lot of people wouldn't think of, certainly wouldn't be an awards contender, but I loved Single All the Way from Netflix last year.
I never checked that out.
Did you get a chance to see that?
Yeah, the one with
Michael Urie.
Michael Urie, yeah. I love Hard. That's the one that I watched all the way.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was such a joyous movie, and we had the previous year we had The Happiest Season, which I liked it, but like it was so negative as far as the feeling of the family, and just a lot of it felt very negative to me. Whereas this just felt so like joyful, which is just what you want at Christmas.
Yeah.
I loved that movie so much. And Jennifer Coolidge, she plays the fairy godmother in the local nativity.
I gotta check that out.
Yeah, you got it. It's really good.
You know, one thing that's also not in conversation that we nominated it for the Golden Globes is My Sunny Mad, which is it's an animated film, but it's about and it's written, the director is a Czech, and the what happens is that it's about this Czech woman who falls in love with an Afghan man, and then they go to Afghanistan, and that was a time when
It's
the
in like the
Taliban.
2000s, right?
No, it's qualified for this year. We nominated it.
No, I mean it's set in the past, right? With the Taliban.
No, just recently also, because when Taliban is leaving, and when they left, actually when they left the country, that's where it happened. So
It's been a while since I saw it. It was last summer.
So she felt safe being there, and then when they came back in power, and where they are now, they're now back in power. So I thought for an animated film, especially, you know, it has some very, very moving as well as disturbing scenes.
Yeah.
That really got to me. And I love speaking with the director. We had a press conference with her, and I that movie left an impression on me, and I hope that more people saw it. But you know, because it's foreign, and it's non-English, people are not so. But I hope, you know, with Netflix now, a lot of films and TV shows and Netflix are in foreign language now. So I think that there's a shift. It's getting there.
Yeah. Mikayla, what did you think was something that was underrated that you enjoyed, that you think maybe didn't get enough love in 2021? Yeah.
Ooh, I mean, I always have to go back to my Disney roots. I really loved Cruella, and I know a lot of people like talked about it, but like I thought Emma Stone's performance was so good. And I like that it was like a reimagining, like a new story being told, not just like a remake of 101 Dalmatians. So I really liked that.
Yeah, if I had to say to Disney what path to go on, to go the Lion King 2019 path or the Cruella path, I'm saying go Cruella all day, every day.
100%.
It had its flaws. It wasn't perfect, but
yeah,
at least it was trying to do something.
It's a new
fresh.
Story. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I agree.
Something different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it way better than Mulan.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
To me, it was just like it was forgettable. Like I don't.
I'm so sad about that. You know, that is one of the last films that we saw before the shutdowns. And
you went to the red carpet?
That is my last red carpet, because I cover a lot of this because I also cover for the Philippines, not just the domestic, but for the Philippines. So I cover it for a whole country. In order to get access, you have to cover for a whole country. So I was there, and it was my last one. And so when I saw it, I'm like, oh no, what is this?
That had to be the last one.
I guess, you know, I was such a huge fan, as we all are, of the animated one.
Right. And I feel like it's even gotten better with age, because it was kind of, it was put out during that Disney Renaissance where everything was so great that I feel like it kind of maybe got a little bit lost in the shuffle. And then now we've revisited it, and it has interesting things to say about gender and you know, there's definitely cringy parts, like the ancestors is not the best, and there, you know, some other things, but overall I really love it. It's really great.
Great songs.
Some that I really enjoyed last year, I absolutely loved the animated short before Raya called Us Again.
Yes.
I thought it was one of the most powerful pieces of filmmaking I saw all year, even though it was short. I absolutely loved it. It was so beautiful, and I loved the music and I loved the dancing.
Mhm.
So that was one of my favorites. I also loved a little movie called Together Together, and this is
Oh,
one
I
I
love
saw.
that.
It was so
With
good, right?
Ed Helms, right?
Yep. And he plays a man who decides that he wants to have a child, and so he gets a surrogate gestational carrier, and played by Patty Harrison. And it's just about their friendship, and it's so unusual to have a movie about a platonic friendship,
Yeah.
and even more to have a man who's wanting to have a child is just an unusual dynamic. And I loved it. I thought it was great. That was one of my favorites.
I
I
love
also,
Patty Harrison.
yeah, yeah, she was great. And I mean, I didn't even know that she is trans,
Yeah.
which I feel like that's great. I mean, you
Yeah,
cast the
it's
right person for
normalizing.
the
Yeah.
role, and it doesn't matter if they are the right person. She absolutely was.
Mhm.
Um, Another one that I really loved, that gets didn't get a ton of love is Dream Horse, with Toni Collette. True story about this group. She decides to get a racing horse, and then like her and probably a dozen or so people from her town, this is in Wales, uh, work together, going out and out together. And it's just a very crowd pleasing, emotional, satisfying movie that was under the radar. I highly recommend. It was great.
Yeah, I never heard of that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. It's actually on my watches. I think it's on. It's either on Hulu or Amazon Prime. One of those.
That sounds right. Yeah, one of those. But yeah, those are some of my favorites. I also really liked, out of TIFF, I think last year, a movie called Violet. And this stars Olivia Munn as this woman who
Oh yeah.
works. She
Mhm.
works for this film production company, and she has this horrible boss. And one day she wakes up and she starts hearing a voice in her head. It's Justin Theroux telling her what she should do and what choices she should make. And I just really liked it. And you actually see her thoughts on the screen written out in her penmanship. And it's definitely the kind of movie that you'll either kind of go with,
Mhm.
or you won't, it won't work. But I thought it was good. And Luke Bracey, he is a very beautiful
Fine.
man. So that was fun.
He's fine.
And what's that one called?
That one's called Violet.
Violet.
And I don't know where you can get that yet, but keep an eye out for it.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
enjoyed it. But yeah, so those were some in the year. And it was an interesting year because we had all of the stuff that had been delayed,
Yes.
and we had, new stuff. And so it was just, and so this year I feel like it's already feeling really slow. Like it feels like hardly anything's coming out because we were so spoiled last year.
That's true. We have like 3 major musicals last year, right?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
And then
plus Cyrano.
Cyrano finally will come out in February, I guess. I don't know what, they've totally messed that whole movie. They're I don't know what they're doing. They could have built so much momentum, and really like this. There's the songs in Cyrano could be We Don't Talk About Bruno. It could be, if they had done it right, but they didn't.
It's not. It's so weird the way that they're marketing that.
Yeah.
It's a disservice to the performances that are great.
Yeah. Well, one question that I always ask is it important to you when you're looking for film criticism to find female voices, female critics, or is a review? It doesn't matter. What do you think, Mikayla, about that?
I think totally we need to have the female voices, and we need to know it's female voices, because I remember I was actually watching one of your other female talks, and it's like the movies aren't made. If a movie's made for the females, like we need to see that perspective. And for anybody, like whether it's people of color, like what's an example? I mean, we talked about the superhero movies before. Like, I want to see a strong female character, and that makes me feel empowered. But
Mhm.
like we said, like a white man might just be like, I'm
Yeah.
going to pick this and this apart. So I think definitely having the different perspectives and representations, like we need to see that. We need to be in there. There needs to be a face to the name. And yeah.
Yeah. What do
You
you
know,
think, Young, about that?
definitely, because I hate how male critics are so dismissive of love stories and romance movies, and I hate how you, they dismiss them so uh unfairly. It's not, it's like automatic to them to like dismiss if it's romantic of, or if it's rom-com, they just out of hand put them in this box of, okay, you're just that
Yeah.
category. When you know there are great love stories, there are great romance movies that needs also to be reviewed, you know, in a way that they review the other films.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, men
Just
and
giving it
women
a chance.
are not this, we're not the same. We're different. We have different
Yeah.
experiences. And it's
Mhm.
important to have critics that acknowledge that. And not that all female critics are going to think the same. Of course they're not.
Yeah.
But you just need to have voices involved in the
Yes.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, you know, the critics, female critics cannot be all things to all
Right.
people, in the same way that male critics cannot do that as well, even though they sometimes act like it.
Right. Yeah. I agree. Well, let's talk a little bit about unpopular opinions. And I know you, Young, you don't do as many reviews, but if you have one, you can share. Um, I recently, just in covering Sundance, for some reason this year, I felt like I just had a lot of unpopular opinions. And I didn't love Cha Cha Real Smooth, which was a big darling of the festival. I didn't hate it, but I just felt like I didn't like the ending. I didn't like where they left off. I won't spoil it, but I didn't like where they left off Dakota Johnson's character. That left to me with a very sour taste in my mouth. And I don't know. I left frustrated by the movie, and I get why people are so loving it because he's super charming, and I get it. But I didn't agree. So and that's always an interesting experience and part of the Sundance experience. I feel like every year there's one where I'm like I last year I didn't love Passing, and a lot of people love that movie, and I see why, but it wasn't my favorite. It just seems like there's always one like that every year. It's Sundance and it's an experience.
My
But
favorite attendance is Leo Grant.
yeah. What about you, Mikayla? What's an unpopular opinion you thought of?
I mean, the first one that would come to my mind, and I don't even know if it would be unpopular, but I recently watched all the Matrix movies for the first time.
Mhm.
And I kind of understood the hype, but especially with the second and the third one, I was not feeling it. And I don't know if there's a big fandom with that. And I was just like, oh, okay. But so there's that. Another one, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero. Okay, that's everyone knows that. And I really love the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. Those are the ones that kind of made me into the fan that I am. And if you guys know, people don't really like those movies. There's a lot of people that don't, and they're very vocal about that. I think there's more appreciation for them now after No Way Home, but yeah, that was always an unpopular opinion. I was always scared to say that like he was my favorite Spider-Man, but yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like you're getting vindicated now,
Yeah,
but it
yes,
was
finally.
for a while there. Yeah. One I thought of was also the movie. I don't know how unpopular opinion is, but the movie The Glass Castle. I really, really disliked that movie a lot. I don't do rants very much on my channel, but I did one for that because it just made me so upset. The way that I felt like they were lionizing this absolutely toxic, abusive father, and like at the end, they're they're toasting to him, and it made me very upset. And I understand it's based on the book and her experiences, but that's not a good enough excuse to me to be doing that. And I just kept getting more and more angry as I watched it. And yeah, that was one.
I love the book, but I never got a chance to see the movie. Now I'm never gonna.
I don't know. It was not for me. I guess you could say it was triggering. That was, but one that I really loved more than most people, it seems like, was Mary Poppins Returns.
Oh, I love that too.
That was one that I think most people, it seemed like, were kind of met on. Just didn't seem to love it. I absolutely loved it. I loved the songs. I loved the Triple Little Light Fantastic sequence was so great. And I don't know, I just thought it was sweet and a worthy follow-up to the original, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
And it did its own thing, kind of like with Cruella. Like, it wasn't a copycat of the original, had its own new songs, own new choreography. I loved Emily Blunt.
Yeah, even she brought her own little spin to Mary Poppins. Like, she wasn't just doing like a parody, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I don't know what people were expecting or what they could have done that would have, I don't know, made people like it more, but I just really, really enjoyed it. But what about you, Yong? Do you have anything like that you kind of had an unpopular?
I was thinking about it, and I'm sure I do, but I kind of tend to forget them as soon as possible. I know that there are things that I like that did not have a lot of love. Like, I love Halle Berry's performance in Bruised.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
I know that not a lot of people talked about it.
What is it again?
Bruised, in Halle Berry in Bruised. I love her.
Right, yeah, I heard that was good.
And also, you asked before about the work that I'm proud of. My recent one with the costume designer for Respect, who is Clint Ramos, and he's not getting any, and he's Filipino, and I was gonna cover him even if he isn't, but he was just not given his flowers for the work that he did for Respect. And I think that is because also of the overall snub
Feeling
of the film,
movie,
which is sad, because I feel like when people have chosen their horses, they don't want to get any more other horses in the mix.
Right. No, it's true. There's sort of your selected contenders, and that's the only ones that kind of get talked about. And every once in a while, there'll be something that gets, popped in there that people are like, where did that come from? But not very often, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is that, and this is my first year really of getting some behind the scenes look at how the sausage is made in terms of awards giving. And it is an awakening. I'm like, oh, wow. I had no idea that this is what goes on, like all the campaigning too of certain studios. Some are more active than others. I would say active. Like, I'm thinking, how did they get my email? Like, all this is like every day, it's nonstop that you get some for your consideration email. I'm like, okay, I get you already, I get it. But and it's just sad that other films do not have that capability, or they do not have the team that can do something like that. So that is what's sad. That's why I like when certain critics champion certain films, and because that's how they get put in the radar of others who love films, or who may be able to vote at awards.
Mikayla, what's something that you've done that you feel proud of, whether it's a video or something that you created?
Honestly, I mean, I could be broad and just say the YouTube channel in general, because it's something I never thought like I would do. Like I was always consider myself shy. And so doing this was such a big step for me, and I'm really proud of myself. But to be more small about it, I think my movie reaction videos. So I did Jurassic Park, and I actually just finished editing my Eternals one, and it's scheduled to come out tomorrow. And they take a long time to edit. And they also, you have to keep in mind like copyright issues. So I'm proud of those. I mean, it's nothing compared to what you guys do.
Oh, it's great. It's a great feeling when you get that video and you feel like it all came together and you were able to like you work really hard. And so I understand. I mean, my YouTube channel, then just my regular YouTube channel is pretty small. So I understand. For me, I think it's a really great feeling when you can give these small content creators a little bit of a moment in whatever sun that you have, and in this last Christmas, there was a movie called See You Next Christmas, which was made by director Christine Weatherup, and she wrote and directed it, and she shot the whole thing in her apartment. And
Wow.
I happened to get an email about it, and I get so many emails, but because this one was Christmas related, I was like, ooh, maybe I'll check that out. And usually these, well, I would say usually, but a lot of times these kind of one man, things just don't end up actually being all that good, but which is unfortunate. But I watched it and I was like, this is really good. It's well written. It's funny. It's got good chemistry. It's about friendship. It's obviously labor of love, low budget. But so I reached out to her and I got to interview her and sort of promote the film, and ended up being in my top 10 non-Hallmark Christmas for the year. And it was just a cool feeling to have it when I sent her the episode where I had it in my top 10. She was like, you totally made my day. Thank you so much. And when you can do that for somebody, it just feels good. It's a nice thing. So that's one that I'm proud of. Another one that I'm very proud of was in 2020. There was a movie called Words on Bathroom Walls. I don't know if you heard of that movie.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I thought it was really good, but I was writing my review and I said, I know admittedly nothing about schizophrenia. I have no idea if this movie is like empowering or if it's I just don't know. I don't know. And so I said, if you have schizophrenia, or if somebody in your family, if you want to reach out to me, I would love to hear what you have to say, because I just don't know. And anyway, this young man reached out to me, actually emailed me and said how much he liked my review and how much he loved the movie. So then I ended up having him on the podcast and we talked all about it, and it was just a really great experience. And then the director, Tor Frudenthal, he heard our episode and then he ended up coming on. And so then we talked about it, and it was just so cool. It was so great and made me feel like, oh, maybe I'm actually doing something that helps somebody. You write these things and you're like, does anybody even read them?
No,
that was a good one.
Sometimes you really don't know who sees the things that you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it can be easy to sort of focus on those views and those numbers and be frustrated, especially when garbage content gets, tons and tons. It can be discouraging, but when you have those moments where with just the one person that it actually helps, it makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to hear, even like getting a notification. Sometimes I have a little part of me that gets a little nervous. I'm like, I hope it's not negative. I don't know. But then even just a little shout out to say like, great video, or I can see what work you put into that, things like that. It makes you feel good. And
I agree. Well, thank you both so much for coming on. This was great. I really enjoyed the discussion and getting to meet both of you. This was really fun. And so why don't you each share where people can find you and your content, or you, Yong, go first?
Well, you can find me on Twitter, Yong Chavez LA, and my I pretty much link to them, but on my bio. But my reports go out to ABS-CBN News and TFC, and also now the Golden Globes website. I started writing my very first one actually. Of course, I have to to write my someone that I'm proud of, who's also Filipino, the costume designer of Respect, Clint Ramos. I'm so proud of that article that came out the other day, because we talked about, the experiences that he had on Broadway. So I'm just bubbling now again. I can't stop talking about the people that I cover because I love when they're successful. I love telling those stories, and so that's it.
I love it.
I'm also on Instagram, Yong Chavez. That's it.
Great. And what about you, Mikayla?
So yeah, on YouTube, you can find me at Movies with Mikayla, Instagram, also Movies with Mikayla, and even on Letterboxd, you'll find me at Mikayla Movies. So yeah, on my channel, I just do movie reviews, also series reviews, trailer reactions. I'm trying to get back into movie reactions and other fun stuff. So yeah.
We will definitely have to do a rom-com something, whether it's on Hallmarkies or here, because now I know that you're both in the sisterhood of the rom-coms.
Yes, definitely.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. And also check out the whole playlist of the Female Film Critics panel. I think you'll really enjoy every single discussion that we had. It's so much fun. Highlight of my month. And check out the Hallmarkies podcast, like lots of good stuff going on there. If you listen to this on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. It helps so much. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group and merch store. Take a look at that. And thanks so much, ladies. This was so great. And I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.